So our goals for today are to inspire and to empower you with the process. Because we're all creative, we've all got amazing business ideas, coaching ideas, educational ideas that we want to share, whether we're selling to clients, whether we're selling on social media, whether we're selling one-on-one. And it's all about process, because process gets you from point A to point Z. And Z is success and profit and reinvestment and all those great things. So we're here to talk about how that works in a presentation. And so we're going to lift the curtain on a presentation that I made for a tech company CEO back in 2017. And we're going to show you how we developed his message and how we created alignment with the team, identified the key points of his message, designed slides, and empowered him to stand on stage back in 2017 when we could do real person events and sort of embrace his audience. But before we get into that, I just want to start with a quick story. So once upon a time, 65,000 years ago, in a deep, dark cave, a startup pitched their idea. They were stood there with torchlight, they had slides behind them, they had their audience in front of them, and they were talking about how they were going to be successful as a tribe, as a community of cave people. People that had come together to survive and be successful and thrive as one unit. Now, they use slides to present their idea, and I believe that cave paintings are the world's first ever presentation. They are a way of communicating a visual idea. And so they use these slides to communicate what they wanted to achieve. And it was a good idea because the community thrives and people knew what they had to do as individuals for the common good. So those who were good at running, or those that were good at throwing spears and hunting and strategy and animal tracking, they were able to identify which animals they needed to hunt, how they were going to survive the harsh winter. And that all happened 65,000 years ago. In 2019, we used to meet in not caves, but dark co-working spaces, stages, audiences, a nice big projector, and we used to share our ideas about our startup, about our business development, about our educational progress, about the scientific research that we've created that's going to enhance humankind. But we all know what happened in 2020. We've all got our own experiences of the disruption and the potential of this new normal that we're embracing. So we're not going to in-person meetings as much anymore. We're not going on business trips, but we are clicking into programs, talking to our devices. We're still connecting with people. And I really believe that pitching and presenting is in our DNA. It is what we have to do if we want to succeed and thrive and strive forward, solving the problems that come in front of us. We have to communicate, we have to pitch, we have to present. And still, we love to talk around campfires, whether it's a handful of friends on the beach, enjoying an evening together, or whether that fire attracts a bigger audience. We are pitching and presenting and sharing our ideas. It's what we do, it's what you do. We can all be amazing at pitching and presenting. So sometimes, a couple of years ago, and very soon, we'll be back in big stage-based audience events. We'll have fantastic speakers sharing their stories, and that's what this is all about. But at the moment, we're talking to our laptops, our cameras, but we're still engaging with other people. And what I want you to do is I want you to enjoy these moments, because they are quite fantastic. Because you get to share your ideas and connect. You do feel a certain amount of anticipation, but that is a good thing. And that's what we want to build on. I want you to enjoy pitching and presenting. Because I believe that every moment that we are pitching and presenting, we are increasing our value. whether you're signing a contract, locking in a new client, building your audience, selling your skills, you are pitching, presenting, and you are increasing your value as a professional. So I'm Martin. I'm from the UK. I've got 20 years of experience in graphic design, film, advertising, events, and now presentations. I spent 4 years in London after I graduated. I went to Beijing, China in 2004 for a 2-year contract that rolled into 16 years. I have a Chinese wife, I have 2 beautiful children, and we really enjoy living in China. But since COVID, our 2019 Christmas trip back home to the UK has extended, and I'm now in the UK, and we're trying to figure out how to get back. So this is me, and this is why I'm here to talk to you about pitching and presenting. So I've worked with a really wide range of companies and clients. So working with big organizations like Volkswagen, Mercedes, MBA, Starbucks, as well as startup accelerators like China Accelerator, Plug and Play, Startup Grind, Angel Hack. Also with university students, the next generation of entrepreneurs, business people, management, and professionals. Because like I said, every single professional, when they increase their value, is because they're presenting. And I get some lovely feedback from the events and workshops that we do. And one piece of feedback I really like to share is the fact that I help people improve their confidence. Because my focus is your enjoyment. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So there are 3 things that you control in a presentation. You control your message, what you're going to say. You control your performance, how you say that. And then you control the slides that you share. What is your visual backdrop which amplifies your message? So we're going to talk about all 3 of these tonight, and I'm going to show you how my process allowed us to work with a Chinese CEO who had good to okay English, and he was doing his first full conference presentation pitch in English. So before we continue, guys, if you could quickly mute your mics if that hasn't happened already, and welcome. It's really nice to have you all here. And let's keep going. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a quick poll, because again, you know, we're here in the same space and we want to sort of figure out what each other understands. So I'm going to launch a very quick poll, and it's based on, do you enjoy presenting? Very simple, yes, no. So just let us know the vibe in the room. Are people enjoying the moment of the spotlight, or is there a certain amount of anticipation? Fantastic, good, I like it. A lot of people enjoy pitching and presenting. Very good, please let us know, because it helps us understand the audience that we have, and then it gives us a sense of who in the room enjoys doing this and why they're here. And for everybody that said no, that's not a problem, because you can be a fantastic presenter. You can be really good. It's not rocket science. It's just a small amount of effort. Okay, very good. I'm going to end the poll. Let me share the results. So we can see we have a room full of people that love pitching and presenting. That is fantastic. I'm really happy about that. Okay, so very nice. Thank you very much. So let us continue. So I want to give you a quick context overview of the case study that I'm going to break down right now. So I was invited by a Chinese tech company, and it was their CEO who wanted to go to the APEC conference. He was invited to the APEC conference to do a stage presentation for 18 minutes. And his audience was government officials, business leaders, and policymakers. So he was talking to a very wide, diverse audience with a spectrum of ages, from very young, new professionals to very seasoned veterans. And he had to come up with a message that could communicate and resonate with all these people. Now, his business was shared bikes. So in China in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and still now, shared bikes became a massive phenomenon. There were a lot of companies. It was a very ferocious market. And basically, you may have seen them on the streets of your city or on the news. I think they came to the UK in a couple of places, a lot of cities in Europe. Basically, it's Uber for bikes. So you use your phone. You don't own the bike, you own access to the bike. From any location where you find a bike, you can scan it with your phone, it unlocks, you cycle your journey, you park it up, and you pay for the meters that you cycle. So that was the business that we were talking about. And full transparency, full disclosure, this unicorn at one point was valued incredibly high, but like Icarus, they flew too close to the sun and they're not quite in the same state that they were when we worked together. So I want you to know that, because if you go online and Google and you see this company and you see some shocking headlines from Forbes or Financial Times, you know, this is what happens to startups. This is what happens to tech companies when they get a lot of money, billions of dollars in investment and valuation. But the presentation we made was before this happened. But I just want you to be, you know, I want to be full transparency. And the reason that I'm sharing this case study is because my process worked. We went through a series of steps to create the presentation, and we hit our goals and we got the results we were looking for. So what were the deliverables that I created in this case study, just so you can understand when we go through it in a moment. So I delivered the content and the slides and the coaching for an 18-minute conference presentation. So within the Apex schedule of one day, you've got lots of speakers, you've got some round tables, you've got some panels, you've got different people sharing their business ideas, their policy ideas, their governmental strategies. So what we did is we went from a whiteboard, you can see here in the picture above me, I'm sort of whiteboarding in their office as we're talking to the CEO and figuring out his message, his passion, his vision. We created a script through different iterations. We developed some slides that kind of visualized his message, and then he was able to learn his script, learn his slides, and then go on stage and present in English in his second language. So why was I chosen? Because I'd done a talk at one of his employees' previous companies. I'd gone in and done a workshop at a lunchtime. I'd worked with them. I'd shared my ideas. She remembered me. And about 2 years later, she called me up and said, we're working on this presentation and we have a problem, because the internal team who's been briefed to create the CEO's conference talk is coming back with a presentation content that feels a bit like Wikipedia. It's all true and it's all facts, but it's not interesting. In fact, it's a little bit boring because there's no narrative, there's no story, there's no personality of the speaker coming through. And any of the information they were presenting, you would catch in a very quick Google search. And if you're stood on stage or on Zoom and you're talking to an audience of real people, you need to do more than that. You can't just share the facts and details and information which is readily available online. You need to catch attention. You need to inspire your audience. You need to motivate them to remember who you are through the stories you share. And that's the process that we went through. So this is a snapshot of what I call the 8 steps to Showtime. And it's the presentation roadmap that I've developed through working in advertising, pitching to Volkswagen and Mercedes and BMW and Nescafe and Nike and all these mega companies. And I used to be the guy who sat on a desk in a branded content agency, being the keynote person, creating the presentations. And I developed this structure because I was fed up with working late. And I needed to guide people through a process where we focus on the ideas, we organize them, we draft a script, we create wireframes of our presentation to make sure the message flows properly. Then we design our slides, then we practice, then we iterate and revise, and then we perform. And this is a simple workflow where we focus on the content first. We make sure that all the major stakeholders have aligned on the content. We create wireframes where there's no design and it's pure content with a flow. And we can start to see how the slides come together. We can practice with this wireframe. Then we design it. Then we really focus on the delivery and enjoying the performance. Because I've seen a lot of people jump into PPT or Keynote or Prezi or Google Slides, start working on their slides, and they're developing their content, thinking about their message all at the same time. And there's no synergy. So you need to give yourself a process. Creativity comes through process, steps, and routine. It's the bits between the steps where the magic happens. But if you have no process, you just end up burning time. So that's the quick context. Let me give you an overview of what we delivered. So this is a snapshot of the 27 slides that we delivered for an 18-minute presentation. You can see that they're visual, they're graphic, they have very low word count. Some of the slides move quite fast and some of them slow down. Now, let me share with you what this presentation looks like from a structural perspective. So I love this mountain analogy. I call my #1 pitching presentation structure the 3-beat mountain. And that means that every single slide is essentially a delivery of 3 ideas, something that catches attention, something that builds trust, and something that makes you go, wow. And then it continues into the next slide. But this mountain analogy also works for the whole presentation. So this 18-minute talk was divided into 5 key sections. So first section was 4 slides. The second section was more slides because we were talking about the passion and the delivery and the ideas of bikes in China. The third section again was quite tight. The fourth section was a little bit longer as we talked about technology and innovation. And the final section was just 3 slides. How do we have a strong call to action and leave a really memorable impression? So I'm going to have another poll real quick. So let me just ask you guys, how do you work with presentations? So let me know if you are making presentations for other people as part of the team, or if you're giving the presentation yourself. Excellent. Because it's 2 different approaches and 2 different mindsets. And for those of you who are giving the presentation, you might be making the presentation as well, or you might be delegating it to your team. And appreciating the process allows you to delegate with more clarity, to empower your people to come up with the right sorts of results. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to close it down in a couple of seconds. So if you haven't voted, please let us know how you work with presentations, how you are successful with presentations. Excellent. I'm going to end the poll now, share the results. So we can see in this room right now, we've got a lot of presenters. I love that because you know what it feels like to stand on stage. And for those of you that make presentations for other people, I feel for you because I know what it's like when you're working and writing for somebody else. It's a very interesting process of empowerment, ownership, and confidence. Okay, so let's continue. Thank you for sharing. I think it's so good to get more involved in these webinars. So the most important thing when we're creating a conference pitch, an investor pitch, a media pitch, a customer pitch, an awareness pitch, presentation, is to really understand our speaker goals and who we're talking to, who's our audience, which is why I've been asking you these polling questions, because I want to know more about you guys. So we've got to focus on our targets and our goals. So we need to realize and appreciate that time is a non-refundable asset. So anything in a presentation is about the speaker connecting to the audience. And also knowing that you pitch to the audience in front of you, because the audience that you spoke to yesterday is different. And the audience you're going to speak to tomorrow is different. And you need to slightly re-edit your slides and your message to be laser focused on the people that you have in front of you. and that you have to share value. Because we have information everywhere, but we want to engage with somebody. We want to see how they speak, listen to their voice, watch them on stage, and really engage with their stories. Because the speaker is the focus. I'm the focus right now, but you are the value. Your time is what is most important in this moment. Because we have a lovely collection of 33 people all here together. And if we times 33 each of our hourly value, our hourly wage, this moment is expensive. So it's all about you guys. I might be the person in the spotlight talking, getting all the attention, but you are the value. And when you appreciate that as a presenter, your message changes because you're not just flipping out the same old slides, but you're really connecting with people. And it's all about creating a sense of ownership. So I want you to walk away from tonight feeling empowered by this case study breakdown, having seen how a process gets results in real life. Take one or two of the ideas and start implementing them in your workflow. Because ownership is the key to a fantastic presentation, how you feel about the results. So let's go back and think about the CEO that I worked with. What were his goals? He was at APEC. And he was talking to government and business leaders, policymakers, people that could really introduce his startup to new markets in Vietnam, Indonesia, Germany, America. It was a lot of potential value. So when he was on stage, he needed to share more than what was already available. Because you go online and in a couple of keystrokes and pressing return, you can read blogs, you can check out press releases, you can watch videos. All the content's out there already. But when somebody has stood on stage and they're talking to an audience, they are making hundreds and thousands of connections. They're really sharing an impression of themselves with their audience. And that is super important. So you need to have a story. And I know the word story gets bounced around in social media. You need a story, you need this, you need that. Yes, yes, yes. But how do you write these stories? That's what we're going to look at later. But we want to tell stories like the people in the caves thousands of years ago to inspire their audience. And it's not only stories, it's your performance. How do you move? How do you sound? How do you look at people? How much do you smile? What impression do you give? How do you look? These are all aspects of your presentation because it's all about the feeling of the audience. So just like kids like playing in water and sprinklers, someone leaves a presentation, they have to feel great about listening to you. And again, process empowers that. So how did we create the message for our CEO? Now, I want you to know that the leader, the presenter, is always the person as the source of the message, what they feel and what they think, how they express intangible emotions and how they relate that to data. So the information of a presentation always comes from the person delivering it. And this process is a way of extracting those ideas, documenting them, tracking them, and turning them into stories. And we have to do a process but the person in the middle of the moment, the person who knows all the information is there in their own whirlwind. They're running a successful business. They've got meetings to go to straight away afterwards. They're connecting to lots of employees. They've got a family. And sometimes it's hard to sort of understand and see your stories because you're living them. They're right in front of you, but you can't always see them, which is why someone like me who comes in and helps go through a process of defining your message, listening, exploring, and discovering is super important because we all need a bit of help. So, reaching out to people, most coaches have a coach. And most consultants talk to other people and business leaders talk to consultants. We have to talk to each other. We have to talk to other niche professionals to advance our career. So someone reached out to me for help and we created this presentation. So the first thing we did on the 8 steps to Showtime is we went and hit the whiteboard. I had a list of 80 discovery questions that I've created over time. which are designed to unearth all the insights that we need to create your stories. So we look up, we look down, we look left, we look right, we go in all orientations, and I try to uncover as much as possible about the business, about the inspiration, about the innovations, about the challenges. And we don't just look up, down, left, and right, but we sort of look round corners, and maybe we jump over subjects, or we go back on ourselves and come up, or we zigzag around. And it's all about discovering what has happened. What are people thinking? What are people feeling? And what can we capture from these moments to turn into the stories of our presentation? And essentially, we are looking at everything that's grown over time of this business. We're getting a sense of the field that we're in. And then we go through and harvest our stories, and we pluck them, and I document them in whiteboard sessions, in recordings, on whiteboards, post-it notes, iPad sketches. And once we've harvested our content, we then start to refine it. Because of course, not all of it's useful, but what is the elements that we can really use to enhance this presentation, to be the hook of the story, to get the thing moving, to get people listening, to put down their phones and engage with the ideas. So our first step was to do a lot of whiteboarding, a lot of discovery questions. And again, that is the first step on the 8 steps to Showtime. And the fantastic thing about a roadmap like this is that you know where you're starting and you know where you're finishing, and it's in between, which is where the magic happens. So what I just sort of shared with you is the first 2 steps, where we explored, we documented, and then we archived. And then we knew that as we moved forward, we had everything that we needed. And so here again is a little photo of me sketching, listening, asking questions, writing down everything that I hear. I don't edit anything in this phase because I don't know where the potential is. And then I created a mountain diagram of what I thought the pitch could look like. And then I wrote a script. And so again, just to keep you tracking with the case study, we delivered an 18-minute presentation over 5 sections. And each section led into the next and rose with a flow. And I mentioned this earlier, but I just want to give you a quick snapshot of the 3-beat mountain. This is my #1 pitching tool. And the beauty of this tool is that we know it already because it's based on the universal storytelling structure of the 3-act play. We have a quick introduction of who we are, and our first beat catches attention. Our second beat builds trust by sharing expertise. Our third beat is wow. I'm going to remember that. And our final beat, the 5th point, is the call to action. What are we going to do next? Now, the beautiful thing about this structure is that you can sketch it on a post-it note, on a whiteboard, on a piece of A4, on a legal pad, and you can start to think, what am I going to start my pitch with? And that is down to you. Like I said, the speaker knows all the information already, but because of the whirlwind, they need a format and a structure to focus their thinking. So I want to share with you how we started this pitch, because I was thinking, okay, my challenge is a young entrepreneur with a massive company doing his first English pitch. He's going to be quite nervous. He's talking to a room of 400 people. They're business leaders, they're super influential. So how does he come on strong? What was the emotive hook that we started with? So before I share that with you, I just want to share a few other things. So in presentations, data is not the problem. Facts, research, information, because our smartphone is never further than arm's reach away from us. I mean, mine is just up there right now. If you look around yourself, it's on the desk, it's in your bag, it's on the shelf. You might be looking at it right now. We have all the information we need within arm's reach. And data can get quite confusing. And data has its place, but on a presentation, you need more than data. You need to connect with what people care about, and you need to share your passion. So what you feel about things comes first, supported with data, because passion and data results in permission. Once you share these things, people are like, okay, I'm going to lean forward, I'm going to put my distractions down, and I'm going to look at you, and I'm going to listen and think about what you're saying. And that comes from telling stories. So let me share with you now back into our slides of our case study and give you a couple of slides of how this presentation at the conference started. So our CEO walked on and he said, hello, my name's Dawe, and I love bikes. I love them so much. In fact, I have the world's biggest collection of yellow bikes. I have 32 million yellow bikes. My company is called Ofo. So that was his opening few lines of his presentation. And I'm going to show you a little bit more later. But what I want to share with you is the emotive, simple, visual hook with how he commanded the attention of the room. And he didn't come in with something boring or descriptive that somebody could have read in the brochure, the program, the website, the PR release, the video, the promotional content. He came in with something that he was really passionate about. He loved bikes. And then he went on to justify that with data and facts and insights. But his opening emotive hook was like, I want to catch your attention, and I'm going to tell you that I love bikes. So let's move through the case study. Let's talk about how we wrote the script. So within the 8 steps to Showtime framework, we're moving from discovery and organization to actually writing the script. And the process that I go through is I work by going short, medium, and long format, and then reducing it to keywords. You'll talk to other fantastic, highly experienced pitch professionals, and they might go in a slightly different order. They might go long form, short form, reduce it down to a paragraph and then 1 sentence. But I work the other way, because when I'm working with you and I'm finding your voice and I'm writing for you, I want to give you a very quick synopsis of the concept, of the message. You can read it on 1 page. You can give it a green thumbs up. Yeah, I like it. You can show me where it's not working, or you can reject it without us having done lots of work. So for me, it's all about, what is your pitch idea? What is your presentation on 1 page? If we can't communicate it on 1 page, we're not at the right point yet. And once we've got a green light on a 1-page overview, then we'll flesh that out and explore some of the ideas, try some of the options, and come up with a slightly longer form version, maybe 1.5 pages, 2 pages, something that takes about 5 minutes to read. Again, we talk about it, we iterate on it, we revise its ideas, we give it a green light, we move it on to a final version where it's a lot more written out, full sentences. What are we actually really trying to say? How does one section connect to another section? And when that's approved, we then lock it down and reduce it down to keywords. So we go from short form, medium, long, and then micro. So we want to be able to really sum up the presentation in a bunch of keywords so the presenter can start remembering them and building a very clear visual mind map of their content. And so once we've completed this, we then go on and develop wireframes. So we take our script and we put them into the PPT, Keynote, Prezi, Google Slides format, and we're translating, we're migrating the content from Word document to slides. And we're starting to see if that migration changes the flow of our message. And we just do this with text only, Arial font, super ugly, 24-point, very easy to read, very easy to see the flow, because we want to make sure the presentation works from end to end. We really want to see that it's got a good structure. Once we've confirmed that structure, we then design it. And the design in presentation design is very straightforward once the message is assured and locked in and people are behind it. And each stage, from the whiteboard to the script to the slides, like every great startup, like every great innovation, like every great business deal, is a process of iterating and confirming, and then moving on to the next step, which is why the 8 steps to Showtime is a roadmap that gets you from whiteboard to performance. So how do we visualize complexity? because that's our next challenge, because we're about to design our slides. And like I mentioned, data in the 21st century is not the problem. We have multiple devices which are pumping the internet. Google, YouTube, Baidu, any search platform will give you thousands of pieces of information. The point is figuring out which data is useful. And it's a bit like going to IKEA. You go in, you buy some furniture, it looks fantastic, it's already made in the storeroom, you then have to go and buy the flat pack, you get home, and this happens. And you're like, oh my God, my life is more complicated than it was before. And that's what we don't want in a presentation, in the build process and the delivery. So let's jump back in and have a look at how we were simplifying complexity. So my client's project was business was all about shared bikes. People would pick up their phones, scan a bike, jump on a bike and go their journey, leave the bike in a safe place. So how do we communicate that in one slide to an international audience? We came up with visuals like this, infographic style visuals. So this graphic shows you from 2015 to 2017, they achieved 32 million short rides a day. So that is basically someone getting out of their house in the suburbs or wherever, jumping on a bike, cycling to the station, doing the majority of their travel on the train, getting off in the downtown, back on a bike, 2 or 3 blocks to their office. That's one case study, but this is how we visualize that complexity. Instead of explaining in a sort of random, haphazard, complex way, we had one stark visual that did that. And then we also talked about the evolution of bikes. So we jumped online, we found the world's first ever bike. It's kind of a wooden frame with wheels. The bike in the middle is the bike that we all grew up cycling on, with gears and brakes and, you know, the seats and handlebars and baskets. And what these guys did is they added AI. They added the Internet of Things. They added technology. They added Wi-Fi. So they took the bike a step further. So again, this very simple visual, 3 images, 3 icons, and 1 word is a backdrop that amplifies the presenter's vision, innovation, and technology. And another example, phone in front of the bike, that's what you use to unlock the bike. The map pin, this is where I am. I unlock the bike, I do my journey, I lock it up, and I go. So this slide doesn't even need a word, which means it's communicating to a big international audience. You're not worried about people's language levels. The slide's not full of bullet point sentences, which are conflicting with the speaker's delivery. It's visual, it's clean, and we're reducing complexity. Here's another example that sort of shows the spectrum of users, say from construction workers on a minimum wage to sort of high-tech professionals. Everybody in China is using these bikes because they're a fantastic solution. And that's what this graphic shows. And again, another example, I have a journey, I have a device, and I have a service, and the 3 combined create an amazing solution. So when you're really clear on your message, you can then design fantastic slides that reduce complexity. So the most important thing is not to jump into a swimming pool full of data. Yes, information and data is super important because that helps us strategically make the right decision. However, in a presentation, that is not what's going to engage people. A lot of your audience is very smart, very clever. They get the ideas super quick. So you need to show them the potential. You need to show them the inspiration and the passion. And that's what a presentation is all about. So how did we get alignment and buy-in? Because obviously I was working for somebody that I met twice because he was so busy. I was half the time in Shanghai, half the time in Beijing, working on other projects. We were working remotely. And whenever I gave a deliverable, I had to make sure that the team got behind it, because if the team wasn't confident, the presenter and the leader wasn't confident. And a major aspect of presentations, them being good, is confidence. So how did we align everybody? We went through our process, and it was all about giving you a stake of ownership. You're not doing the hard work of every single moment and sketch and whiteboard note and stroke of a keyboard. You're not doing all that, but you're aware of the process. And to me, it's very much like getting a suit made. So just before I left Beijing, I went to go and speak to a tailor about getting a tailor-made suit. And he walked me through the process of choosing the fabrics, getting a measurement, choosing a style, getting a general fitting, and then going back for a second fitting, make sure it's all comfortable, then choosing all the details, confirming everything, so that at the end you feel fantastic. And so presentations, because they're all about confidence, you have to align the team. Because if one of the leaders is going to do the presentation and they're talking to part of their team when you're not there, and they're a bit, well, I'm not sure about this, then the whole thing's going to start slipping down. So again, let's look at how we design some of the slides. We're in the middle of the 8 steps to showtime now. In fact, we're just over the middle. We're kind of coming into the finish line. And something that I would like to suggest and recommend, and the practice that I use myself, is when you're designing your slides, one idea per slide. You have sat through presentations full of text and bullet points and charts. And I get that. Sometimes those presentations are important. I've worked on board of director, Volkswagen Group, you know, the real senior guys at the big Volkswagen Group. I've worked on those presentations and they are dense because that is a different type of presentation. But in a conference, you want to share amazing visuals. You want to share one idea a slide. You don't want to do this. You don't want to load your slide like an all-you-can-eat buffet, because you end up with stuff hanging off the edges, everything blurs into each other, and the taste is not what we want. So I really recommend that you focus on one flavor per slide and share a super succinct, visual, emotive message. And when that's massive on a conference presentation format, on a slide background, you've got 300, 2,000 people in the room, your slide is really amplifying your message. You look like a rock star. And you want that. That's what you want when you're in a live Zoom presentation. So let me share with you again some more examples in this case study breakdown. So again, here's a more snapshot of how the slides work. There's full screen yellows, full screen whites, full screen images, simple icons, maybe a sentence, maybe a photograph. And it's all about telling stories. So this slide is talking about the Chinese cultural connection and values to bikes. Everybody in China grew up with a bike in the household, their parents cycling to work, maybe 2 or 3 people on a bike, using bike for entertainment, using bike for work, using bike as a tool. And we also wanted to show frustration, because if anyone's been to modern day China or lived in China, this is what you'll see. Lots of traffic, massive roads. This is in the middle of a city, 4 lanes on either side. One bus driver makes a mistake and the whole city comes to gridlock. Images like these are fantastic because they really express emotion of frustration. And again, when you're on a conference stage and you're talking about your products and your solutions and your innovations, these sorts of images are what connect with people, because we've all been stuck in traffic. And then again, for some slightly infographic ideas, how can a handful of words lead you on a visual flow where you show the product, you show your measurement, you say we're reducing carbon emissions because we've reduced this volume of traffic off the road that's not using this amount of fuel, and that's reduced the air pollution, which in China is super important. This is when the data makes sense, once you've framed it through emotions and stories. So some tips for designing your slides. Keep your word count to 8 to 10 words per slide. Use icons from Keynote or PowerPoint or from the internet. There's a fantastic wealth of illustrations and icons. Everything that we need has been designed already. It's all about how we use it. And then when you design your slides, make them bold and easy to read, so that the audience is comfortably watching the slide, listening to you, scanning the visual flow, whether it's words, icons, or photos, or even just a blank page with one word, is super powerful. So we're getting close. I would like to run another quick poll. So just to bring you guys back, I want to know how you feel about your presentation skills and which skills you're going to work on improving next. So How do you feel about how you share a message? How do you feel about your performance? And how do you feel about your slide design? Again, these polls are anonymous. I just want to get a vibe for the room and think, what do I need to improve? What I'm saying, how I say it, or what it looks like. Excellent. Thank you for the sharing, guys. I think it's super important that we're, on this call together and we're sharing with each other. So I'm going to end the poll right here. And let me share the results. So it's very interesting. Message is the most important thing. What you are saying, and then how you're saying it, and then what that looks like. This is what really will advance your presentation ability, confidence, and skills. So thank you so much, guys, for that quick little poll. And we're coming into the end of the content now. So I just want to talk about how we handed over the slides, because again, like I said, it's all about confidence. So we're coming into the tail end of the 8 steps to Showtime process. We've discovered the content, we've organized it, we've drafted it, we've developed the slides, we've practiced, now we're iterating. So it's all about reviewing and practicing and what they call revving, like a motorbike. You rev your content to get a feel for it. And so again, we come back to our overview. And this presentation, this 18-minute conference talk, was a real balance of big emotion, data, smaller emotion, bigger data, another emotional drop, more data, and finishing with a gong, bong of emotion of where this vision was going for the future. So I want you to start thinking about your presentations in a much more visual way. You can have the slide by slide details, but you can also zoom out and get the bird's eye view, get the strategical view. What decisions do you want people to make as a result of having their time and attention? And again, just an overview. We worked on a whiteboard. We developed scripts. Once the scripts were confirmed, we developed them into wireframes and final slides. And I even did a video pitch of the presentation, pretty much like I'm doing now, where I performed the presentation to show the speaker how the content was structured to be delivered. So he could watch me and then think, well, that's Martin doing it. How am I going to do it? And so he could move in, take ownership, and have his own performance. And again, that's part of what we can do now with technology, with QuickTime, with videos, with Dropbox. It's so easy to make a video, show you how it works, and then share it. Because it's all about ownership of the message. How you feel confident about sharing this message and owning that message. Because again, that's what the speaker is all about. It's all about you being in control of the performance moment. Because when you're on stage and you have a mic in your hand or a headset, and you have an audience full of people, whether it's virtual like this evening or in person like a TED Talk or an APEC conference or any kind of industry conference, you have to enjoy that moment. You have to be confident to really perform. So that's why I love the idea of empowering you to be confident in your performances, because that is what's most important. When you enjoy pitching, your audience enjoys listening, they process the ideas that you've shared and they do something with them. That is the most important thing. That is the goal. So again, here's an overview of the process that we've just shared in this case study. The 8 steps to Showtime is how you go from a whiteboard through a script development, wireframes, practice, iterations, confidence, and enjoying your presentation moment. So I have one final poll, which we're just going to run before we review the takeaways. And then we're coming pretty close to time. If we have any questions, I would love to sort of open the floor and let people know, let's discuss this a little bit. So please just take a quick look and let me know what you thought about this session, because I would really appreciate some feedback so that I can improve this for next time. I'm always evaluating my performance, the way that I create the content, the engagement that I get. And please be honest. Like, I love honest feedback. Feedback is gold because it really shows you where to improve in the future. And again, your time is non-refundable. So if it's not worth it, you know, we need to work on that. Excellent. So please share your opinion, guys. I really, really value it. Okay, I'm going to close the poll because we want to try and finish with a few questions. So just going to share that. Thank you so much, guys. Really good. I love honest feedback. I've got a little bit of improvements to make, but that is the whole point. So let's wrap it up. What are the key takeaways from today? Remember, we started pitching is in our DNA. It is what we do. We were born to pitch as humans. We can all pitch. Everybody can do this. It's a case of following a roadmap, going through the process and building confidence. Every moment that you create value as a professional is because you are presenting. So whether it's job interviews, assessments, sales pitches, clients, conferences, media, customers, team, collaborators, co-founders, you are pitching and sharing your ideas. You need to create a sense of ownership. Ownership in your message, in your delivery, in your performance, in the moment of the presentation. The 3-beat mountain is a fantastic framework to use to share your ideas that allows you to stay focused. And again, you write a script, you start simple, you flesh it out, you get approval, you get feedback, you develop it, you revise it, draft it, and then lock it down to keywords. Reduce complexity. Nobody needs more hassle in their life. One idea a slide is a really effective way of doing it. And ownership of your message, because we want you to enjoy the spotlight. We want you to enjoy presenting.